Hey you guys, it's Peter, and welcome to my channel, Peterisms, where I tell stories of my life and just little things that I have learned as I have grown into the person that I am today. And it's been a few days since I've been over here reading meditation, so I thought that I would break out the old Melody Beatty books today, my favorite meditation books of life, The Language of Letting Go by Melody Beatty and Journey to the Heart by Melody Beatty, and we would get into some meditations and start our weekend off on a good note. So let's get into these. I want to read what today's meditation is, and I also want to see what the last couple days are. Maybe there is something that I feel like I need to hear to start my weekend, off on a good note. Okay, today is February 21st. I can't believe that we are near the end of February already. February 21st. Living in the present, which was my goal for 2024, was living in the moment, but then I've carried that over into 2025. So for those of you that do not know, I feel like I've talked about this in a lot of videos over here. My goal for 2024 my main goal was to live in the present moment, to just, when I'm in the moment, just to live in the moment, not to be, borrowing trouble for the future or the past, just living in the moment and enjoying the moment. One of my goals, I have like 5 main, I don't want to call them philosophical goals, but like thinking goals of 2025. One of my main goals is to live my best life, but I kind of like revamped it. And so in the moment, if I'm living in the moment, asking myself in the moment, like, are you living your best life? Like right now while I'm filming this video, asking myself, like, in this moment, are you having fun? Are you living your... And I feel like I am today. This is my 5th video that I have filmed today. And I got started early because I got a haircut earlier. And I've just had such a blast filming videos today. And so, yes, in this moment, I am living my best life. A couple of my other goals are that I'm asking myself, where am I putting my energy? These are kind of like intentions. So I make, goals and intentions for the year going into it. Instead of like, I'm not somebody that does New Year's resolutions. I do goals and intuitions and intentions. And so one of my intentions is also to ask myself, where am I putting my energy? Like, am I putting my energy into negative things, into positive things? Who am I putting my energy into? Am I putting energy into relationships that are, reciprocal and that I'm invested in, that they're invested in? Where am I putting my energy this year? Am I putting my energy into things that make me happy, into things that I think are going to, serve my life well? Where am I putting my energy? Because in the past, not just in the last year, but in the last 30 years of my life, even before I got sober 30 years ago, I have had a tendency to focus a lot on, like I've said this before, on the glass is half empty instead of half full, and put a lot of my energy into negative thinking and worrying and fear and things like that. And so asking myself, where am I putting my energy today, is really about asking myself, am I putting my energy into things that I can control or I can't control? Am I putting my energy into things that I have put my energy into for years and years and years with no positive outcome, relationships, friendships even, things that it's just maybe time to let go of? So that's one of my main intentions for this year as well. But definitely I'm carrying over living in the moment. And all these intentions of, are you living your best life? I mean, how each person defines that is different. I mean, living my best life in the moment could be 3 o'clock in the morning reading The Comfort of Crows by Margaret Wrinkle, sitting in the chair downstairs with a bunch of, candles lit, having a cup of herbal tea, and it's snowing outside. And that in that moment could be my best life, Or my best life could be being at a music festival or flying somewhere on a vacation with my husband. Being in a casino playing slot machines or being out to dinner, with my friends. In the moment, I ask myself that question, like, are you doing exactly what you want to be doing in this moment? Of course, I always like, well, sure, I'd love to be in Tahiti or something, but in that moment, right, realistically, am I doing what's making me happy? Am I living my best life? And so I think that term, when we hear that term, living our best life, I think for me, I've always perceived that as that you should be jet setting around the world, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. But what somebody else's best life looks like may not look like what my best life is. Sometimes my best life looks like having a cup of coffee, in the middle of summer on my front porch talking to my neighbors. Sometimes that is my best life. And so it's asking myself, though, in the moment, am I doing that? And of course, not 24 hours a day in every moment can we be doing exactly what makes us happy, living our best life. But I think that in that moment, or in those moments when we're doing things that we feel like we're obligated to or committed to, what is our attitude that we're bringing into it? Are we bringing in an attitude of, I don't want to be here, I don't want to do this? Or are we bringing an attitude of, yes, I am living my best life. This is time that I am being given in this life and on this earth. I'm going to be grateful for this time. And so in this moment of doing something that I've committed my time to, that I feel obligated to do, I'm going to continue to live my best life in this moment and do it with joy and happiness. And I think that's something that's something else that I'm working on as well. So let's read this meditation about living in the moment, which is one of my goals for this year, or was last year and this year. Living in the present, February 21st. The present moment is all we have. Yes, we have plans and goals, a vision for tomorrow, but now is the only time we possess, and it is enough. We can clear our mind of the residue of yesterday. We can clear our mind of fears of tomorrow. We can be present now. We can make ourselves available to this moment, this day. It is by being fully present now that we reach the fullness of tomorrow. Have no fear, child, a voice whispers. Have no regrets. Relinquish your resentments. Let me take your pain. All you have is the present moment. Be still. Be here. Trust. All you have is now. It is enough. Today I will affirm that all is well around me when all is well within. I think it's a really great meditation to go back to and to remember. I've talked about this before and talking about this goal that, I can remember, growing up and seeing the posters on the wall in school that said if you put one foot in yesterday and one foot in tomorrow, you poop all over today. And it's a saying in recovery as well. I don't remember how it was phrased in school. I don't think it was with the S word, but I remember hearing that when I was younger. Maybe it wasn't on a school poster. Maybe it was just something I heard, but I can definitely remember hearing it when I got sober. That's kind of a recovery thing that people say a lot. If you keep one foot in yesterday and one foot in tomorrow, you poop all over today. And I know that. I think the trick is, when I'm saying this, there's probably a lot of people that are watching this that are like, well, how do you do that though? It's actually something that took me really an entire year to focus on, and still I haven't gotten to where I wanted to get with it. I think at first, to take away, I think part of it for me was engaging in things, not engaging in things that happened in the past that I can no longer control the outcome of, or fears that I have no control over of things that are going to happen in the future. Working on my OCD with my therapist has greatly helped that, because a lot of my OCD rituals were based in fear of things I couldn't control. So working on my OCD in the last year has really, really helped me get out of fear and worry. It's not to say I don't still have fear and worry. I do. But I also have this process that I kind of work through in my head. Like, what's the point in worrying about this? You can't control it. And because if I don't, then that will lead to some of my OCD rituals. So it's not just, it's for me, living the present moment is peace of mind, but it's also sanctuary from these rituals coming out again. So it's not a luxury for me to have that. I have to work on it. I think that when there are things that are within my control, and I have to ask myself that, are there bills that need to be paid? Are there people that I need to reach out to? Are there things I need to do? I do all that kind of stuff, and then I allow myself to live in the present moment, so my mind doesn't wonder, oh, you were supposed to call this person, or you're supposed to, do this, or pay this bill. Or what I do is I keep a running list of all the things I'm going to do tomorrow. This has really greatly helped me. I've always kept lists, but in the last year, when I've closed the computer for the day and I'm just resting and relaxing and watching TV, I try to turn my mind off. If I'm downstairs and I'm watching TV or I'm reading and something comes to my mind oh, you were supposed to do this, you were supposed to schedule this appointment or call this person, I put it on my list for tomorrow. And then tomorrow I pick that up. And you know what? There have been things in the last year that I have forgotten to schedule appointments for weeks on end. There have been people that I was supposed to, and I just forget, and I just own it. And I'll be like, hey, I was supposed to make this appointment 3 weeks ago. I totally forgot. I'm sorry. I don't borrow trouble anymore with things that most people don't even get upset about that, And I'll be like, oh, I told you I'd call you last week and I'm just calling you now. I'm really, really sorry. I mean, that's all about accountability and taking ownership over stuff. But I don't have to let it ruin my life. Oh my God, I was supposed to call them yesterday and I forgot. You know what? Stuff happens in life. It's not going to be the end of the world, right? Stuff happens, and you'll get to it. And there's extreme cases with that, and I'm saying by and large, right? I just don't want to continue to live in worry and fear anymore. Me living in the present moment has really greatly helped me being out of that fear and worry. It's really, really helped me a lot. So this is a great meditation. But I think for me sometimes, I have to make sure that before I can relax, a lot of my stuff is crossed off my list. In that moment, if I'm like hyper focused and worried or something, like I will talk to somebody about it. I'll call my, my sponsor in recovery. I'll talk to my husband, my therapist, my best friend, some of my friends, and I'll be like, yeah, this is like kind of freaking me out. And usually they'll just be like, why are you worrying about it? Like, why are you borrowing trouble? You can't fix it anyway, right in this moment. There's nothing you can do about it in this moment, where you have no control over it anyway. So just let go. And what I kind of get to is this point where I realize there really isn't any other option besides letting it go. If I could control it, I would control it. If I could change it, I would change it, but I can't. And I think that is behind the whole idea of those things we can't control, just letting go of, and things are going to work out the way they're supposed to. And that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to work out the way that we want them to, but that means realizing what amount of control we have. Fear and worry is based on the need to control things and outcomes that we can't. And once you realize that, and you realize I don't have any control over this outcome, I mean, there's some things in life that we can control. But when I first got sober, one of the things I heard is we cannot control other people, places, and things. And definitely not other people. Like what other people think about me is none of my business. And that's been a lesson I've been working on my entire life. I think I'm starting to get it just in the last couple months, I think the other thing is a lot of these things that I have borrowed in the last, let's say, 15, 20 years, the fear and worry about, a bill that I forgot to pay or whatever, right? It's like, or a friendship or a phone call I was supposed to make or whatever. It's like, in the moment when you go through like a tragic situation, like when my mom passed away, the accident, things like that, in those moments, you're not thinking about those things. Those things will either take care of themselves or they're not as important as you thought they were in the grand scheme of things. When our dog Boo Radley passed away at the end of October, I think time kind of stopped for me for a little bit, in all honesty, and reminded me of the other things that I had gone through, because in that moment, I didn't care about anything else other than the fact that it was Boo Radley had passed, and I was missing him greatly, and I was grieving him, and that was really only where my thought was. And so to be worried about this or care about, I'm not talking about just like letting your life go away and then you're not taking care. I'm talking about taking care of business, but at the same time, those inconsequential things that we worry about and we fear and we try to control that we don't have any control over, at some point you have to ask yourself, what's the point? Is there any point in me trying to borrow all this trouble? And when you're going through, if you've ever gone through like really horrific stuff, which most of us have, in that moment I can tell you, your worry is not about, I pissed off Sally and I got to call her and work that out. In that moment, you're like, in all honesty, you're like, Sally can work it out on her own, or it doesn't matter. I'm feeling deeper shit right now, and this deeper stuff is what I need to be thinking about, right? The rest of it, I gotta let go of. Well, if we could, bottle up that emotion in those moments of when we're going through those difficult times, when we realize those are the moments when we realize what life is really about. Those are the moments when we realize what is really important in life, okay? It's not about this petty stuff that we get worried about, or we stress out about, or we have fear around. It's not those moments. It's not. And if you've gone through really tough stuff, you know this to be true. In those difficult times, you are not worried about all that petty stuff, okay? You're worried about and thinking about the things that are really important. Well, if we could bottle those moments up, and remember that on some random Tuesday when we're stressed out about 50 different things, can't get Judy to soccer practice, can't get, Dan to art class, can't get, what am I going to do? And I haven't even thought about what I'm going to make for dinner. It's going to all work itself out. It's going to all work itself out. And if it doesn't, and Judy misses soccer practice and Dan misses art class and you have to order pizza at the last minute, it's okay. The world's not going to come to an end, And I think that's what I had to start realizing. I had to start realizing that, like, I had had enough of those moments of really difficult times that outside of those moments, I was putting unnecessary stress and worry on myself, and complicating fears and worrying about and fearing things that would probably never even happen. I remember my old sponsor used to say to me, 90% of the things that we worry about in our lives never even come true, And so, and the ones that do, we rarely have control over anyway. And so I was like, why am I borrowing all this trouble and making myself so stressed out, And then after Boo passed away, I started getting this situational anxiety that I'm still dealing with it. Today, I'm still dealing with it. You know, some days I wake up with it, some days I don't. Sometimes it takes me hours to get over. Sometimes it goes away like that. And, you know, my doctor, my therapist telling me that's a direct result of me basically not taking care of myself and living in fear and living in grief and I'm not taking care of myself, then those things are going to happen, right? So stressing myself out more is not helping myself. That's not good self-care. Letting things go that I can't control, trying to let go of fear and worry, and it's not something that comes naturally. It's something I have to work through each time it happens to me. And consciously in my head say to myself, what is the point of you doing this? What's the outcome, okay, that you cannot control? Control those things you can control, let go of the things you can't. In the moment, you know what those things are. And I know people will be like, well, it's hard. It's hard. I know it's hard. Trust me. I know how hard it is. It starts with one action. You know, I've said recently that, you know, I celebrated 30 years sober in December, and I've said recently that I built 30 years on one day at a time. Anything can be built on one day at a time, one moment at a time, you know? If you're trying to, like, stop worrying about something, I don't know, like, I mean, I'm not talking about, like, major things like debt and whatever. Those are obviously things that we have to take care of. But if you're worried about, like, saving, and you don't have the money to save, okay, but you have, you can put $1 aside every day. That's an action that you can do. That $1 a day is 365 days at the end of the year. That's a pretty strong foundation for savings for your future. You know, when you're worried about something, you're freaking out about it, and you're borrowing trouble, if just for that day you say, today, I mean, this is where we can take the recovery things, you know, and we can apply it to real life and say, just for today, I'm not doing this, okay? I'm going to let go of this, and whatever happens, happens. How do you do that? I don't know how to do that, Peter. Well, you just sit and you tell yourself, I'm not doing it. I'm not going there in my head. I'm going to busy myself with other things. I'm not going to do there. You know, I'm not going to Google search, you know, medical conditions. I'm not going to stress out about this. I'm just not going to go there, you know? I'm not going to talk about it today. I'm not going to give it any energy. That's one day. Then tomorrow you pick up the pieces for a second day. We're only given a daily reprieve, and before you know it, it's 4 or 5 days. And then all of a sudden what you realize is I'm starting to feel better because I'm not carrying that stress and that worry anymore. And that feeling better propels you to not only do that with that one thing, but then carry that into other things as well. I'm not telling people not to, like, deal with their issues. Take care of business. You got debt to pay, work on paying that debt. You know, if you got things that are legitimate to worry about and be fearful about, medical issues, go see a doctor by all means. But to put our stress on ourselves about things that we cannot control, you know, control is the best aspect you can. Go see doctors. Go talk to professional people about it. Go see a therapist if you need to work on things. Talk to people about those things, but then let it go. If you can't control it, do what you can do and then let it go, you know? I had to get to a point where I realized there's only so much that I can do and I can control in my life. The rest of it, I can't. I have to let it go. How I react to it, and how I respond to it, I have 100% control over that. But a lot of things that happen in my life, I cannot control. And the realization and the acknowledgement of that was so freeing. It was so freeing to realize maybe you're not as important as you think you are, and maybe you can't control as much as you wish you could. And it was powerful when I got to that. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comment section below. I'm not going to read from the other book, but that was a great meditation to start the weekend on. You know, maybe this weekend practice just letting one thing go. Just letting one thing go this weekend. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. I love you guys, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.